students for life. Because nowadays, I think the thing which is very much needed is that we need to make a shift from, I should say, this competence to capacity building. And I'll be covering that in my later slides. Manage classroom in an effective fashion. And when I say managing classroom, I do not at all mean the kind of classroom in which pin drop silence is there, in which the teacher is, I should say, the interlocutor, and all the students are simply listening to him very passively, right? So when I say managing classroom, then I mean the classroom which is full of interaction. I mean the classroom where students are also active participants, where they have been putting forth their views also. The teacher definitely has high self-esteem and has a sense of humor also, because how many times, I should say, that gives the momentum to the class. Be a complete person, and the teacher should also be ready to take risks, right? Because risk is directly proportional to gain. Sometimes we are doubtful about a particular strategy. Is it going to work or is it not going to work? Maybe that I want to float, or I want to come up with a new activity which is unexplored so far. So I should be ready to take up that risk. Maybe that it interests students, maybe that it triggers their curiosity, maybe that they are able to learn the things better, right? So these were all qualities of a teacher. Now let's move ahead with the challenges which are there before a teacher. People, I should say, consider the teaching job as a very easy one. But let me affirm the same point that it holds several challenges. It is a challenging task. It requires, I should say, diligence and perseverance on our part. The reason is because we have to deal with several generations, right? It is the profession where we are supposed to deal with sometimes baby boomers, sometimes with the generation X, sometimes with the generation Y, sometimes with generation Z, sometimes I should say with generation K, right? So there are several generations. They come up with their different key attributes. They come up with a different persona, and therefore the teaching becomes very challenging. So Ebert somewhere said that educators need to change their methods in order to reach today's millennial student. And if I talk about this millennial student, then the qualities or the characteristic is that they don't want to be a passive learner. They want to be engaged in that activity, right? So as has been said by NIU, millennials are the most diverse generation we have had to teach. Thus, our approaches to teaching must be diverse. They expect to be engaged in their learning. They do not do well being passive listeners. There was a time when the teacher used to say and the students used to just listen. But if I talk about millennials, then they definitely want to be engaged with that process. And therefore, if we have a class in which we have more activities, in which we have more brainstorming session, if we have group discussion, if we have case-based study, then definitely the understanding or the students are going to gain more from our classes. Yeah, thank you. Stevens and Nees have said these students embrace technology, they lose interest during lectures, and enjoy the challenges and experience of taking part in interactive learning activities. So all these are characteristics of, I should say, Generation Y, or which we also call as millennials. Now let's talk about this Generation K. If I talk about Generation K, then they have different characteristics. And if I talk about Generation K, then I should say that all the people who are born from somewhere from 2002 to 2015 are included in that. So if I talk about this Generation K, then they are selfie taking, very passionate about that, but yet unselfish, connected every time they are on one or other social media, right? They have their accounts on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, everywhere they are connected, yet lonely at heart. So how many times they just want somebody to listen to them, right? So they are connected, yet lonely, anxious, very worried. At the same time, they have the practical approach also. They are very pragmatic in nature. risk averse, don't want to go for risk, yet very entrepreneurial. Because if we happen to find, if I compare today's time with almost the time which was 10 years ago, I should say that there are young people who are venturing into this entrepreneur. They are venturing into being entrepreneurs, right? So they are risk averse yet entrepreneurial. So it is a distinct cadre, a generation very different from those that preceded them. So I hope you will agree with me that if I talk about the scenario almost 10 years ago, and if I talk about the scenario of today, the situation is altogether changed. And therefore, the teacher of today has many-fold challenges. And therefore, we need to, I should say, we need to work on ourselves. We need to foster our own skills so that we can address to all those challenges or all those key attributes which are associated with baby boomers, with Generation X, with Generation Y, with Generation G, with Generation K. Right? So let's talk about now, move to universities in 21st century. How are they distinct from the previous universities? So if I talk about universities in the 21st century, it is diverse in nature. Why? Because we have diverse range of cultures, ages, personalities, learning style, background. Students also come from different strata of society, and therefore it is all diverse. So whenever I'm tackling with this diverse audience, then I have to have multiple skills to address the students, right? Second point is that they are all technology driven people, right? Sometimes I should say that if I'm not exaggerating the details, if I say that they are better equipped with technology as sometimes even compared to their teacher. So if I talk about these millennial students, they are digitally, they have that digital citizenship, and they have preference for self-directed formal and informal learning has created an environment that fosters experimentation, curiosity, and they are very creative in nature. So they are technologically very sound, and we have to keep that in mind. Third point is about generational difference, because already we have been able to cover this point that each generation, if we talk about them, then they come up with their different key attributes. So somewhere National Chamber Foundation said that baby boomers, if we talk about them, they were all idealists. The people who were born somewhere from I should say 45 to 1962, they were all idealists. If I talk about Generation X, then they are skeptical independents. They happen to doubt the things. And if we talk about these millennials, then they are diverse. They love to be diverse collaborators. They don't want to be passive, right? They want to be active in the phase of learning. So these attributes are thought to be shaped by economic, political, and social context, which influence the culture of the period. So if we talk about the universities of today, then they are very diverse in nature. They are technologically driven, and fortunately, we have a generation which has different key attributes, right? So till now, we have been able to talk about several points. Before I proceed further, I would love to listen it from my audience. Are they comfortable? Are they comfortable with me?
Yeah, this is Radharaman Chaudhary, ma'am. Yes, we are comfortable with you.
Right. In case you have any questions so far, either you can type it in chat box or you can let me know your question. Maybe that whenever I'm okay, if I'm progressing, then maybe that you can come up with your questions. So here is a small activity for you. Certain things have been given here, and it basically talks about the profile of a modern teacher, which is altogether a changed one from the previous one, right? So if we talk about all 21st century teachers, they are not just experts in technology, rather they are experts in habits of mind, right? So if we talk about modern educators, then there are certain traits which have been written over here, and I should say that they are 16 in number. May I request you all to just assess yourself on the given parameters, and maybe that we meet just after, or we interact after 2 minutes, and then you can let me know, out of 16 trends, how many trends are you able to witness in your own personality? Do you follow all these traits, or do you believe that yes, there are some other traits and there maybe that something even irrelevant has been written over here and we do not follow them, right? So there is, the time limit is just 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, I'll ask people. Okay, so please be quick in going through. I hope it must be readable. In case there is any problem, you can let me know.
I think, madam, things may not be readable.
Okay, fine. So I'll just
yes,
I'll
yeah.
just read it out for everyone. I'll
yeah.
just read it out.
That is,
So number 1 point is, do we choose to be vulnerable? Do we choose to be vulnerable? That we have even got certain challenges, we have even got certain dangers, we have even, do we realize that yes, even certain threats are there in being a teacher? Second point is, see themselves as co-learners. Co-learners. We are also learning with our students. Third is, allow themselves to fail, maybe even often, right? It's not always that I emerge, I should say, victorious in my classes. Sometimes maybe that even I emerge as a failure, and I even do not shirk from accepting that failure before my students. It is up to you whether you agree with it or not. Fourth point is, don't wait until they are experts to introduce something. I just introduce something in my class only if I know everything about it, right? Or otherwise, maybe that I do not have, I should not say that I have all the details about it, but then I love to float it with my students because maybe that with their understanding, I may gain some of the insights. Fifth point is, move into their students' world, even if it is a foreign territory. We might not be able to understand it because we might belong to the category of baby boomers. They might be, or we might be in the category of millennials, but they are in the category of Generation K or Generation Z. So even if it is a foreign territory, or even if I'm not able to assess their psyche or psychological traits, still I love to interact with them. Next is, run towards their area of weakness, not away from it. I'm not trying to leave that area in which maybe that I'm a bit scared. I don't want to touch that. Are comfortable not knowing what is going to happen. We do not know. At times, suppose maybe I'm introducing some of the activity, and maybe that this activity has never been introduced before. So maybe that I want to take up a risk. Maybe that I want to introduce that new element with my students. Invite mistakes into their lives. Dream big and ask why not. Allow their students to teach each other. How many of us allow it that, okay, you are being paired with such and such person and you are supposed to teach him something, or you are supposed to teach you are supposed to interact with your entire group members. Step outside their comfort zone. There may be something which is not in my comfort zone, but I try to step out of it. Embrace change. It is very difficult to embrace change. None of us wants to change, right? So are we ready for that change, or we have certain reservations about that change? Feel secure asking their colleagues for help. If I do not know something, I am very opened up and I want to learn it from my fellow member. Model resilience and perseverance. If there is something which comes as an adverse circumstances, I am ready to learn something from that adverse circumstances, and despite difficulties, I believe in moving ahead. Question everything. Do I promote, encourage the same trait? Believe they can learn anything given the right attitude and effort. Am I an optimistic one? Do I have the faith in my capabilities that if I am given the time, then definitely I'm ready to learn everything, whatever is existing in my periphery, whatever is existing in the world? So just a question to my entire audience. Do they feel that they are ready to opt for all these strategies? They generally follow all these practices, or are there some of the points where they believe that yes, probably it does not fall into the purview of a particular teacher and the teacher should not exercise them? Anyone who would unmute himself and would respond? May I request anyone?
I'll try to respond to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Radharamanji.
Yes. Well, what my experience says is that, people normally love to open up when you meet their expectation. If
Very good.
if they think that you are not able to meet their expectations and you are going way out of their, diagram, basically Venn diagram, their circle,
Very true.
then probably they disengage.
Yeah,
But only when you are in their circle, then
yeah,
probably you will be able to communicate better.
very
That's
right.
what is my, and you have a big advantage of being an experienced person. So you can, tell them, you are using the latest technology, but how it has evolved till today,
Yeah,
that is you have the experience, so you can actually be very creative in explaining all those things, basically,
right.
because you are seeing 360-degree, they might be seeing 10-degree, 20-degree, basically.
Wow.
So that's what I have to say.
Yeah, Radharamanji, thank you so much for coming up with this wonderful response. Undoubtedly, I believe you have been able to explain that when it comes to teachers, then definitely they have got more experience, they have witnessed more things in lives, and they can, I should say, impress upon that point among their students. But at the same time, you have also stressed on the point that definitely we should also be ready to get mingled with them. We should not have an identity where they get scared of us and where they feel that yes, maybe that I do not want to communicate with with my teacher. So it is very important to open up with them. So thank you so much for coming up with this beautiful response. uh, I just missed Shweta also typed something in the chat box. I'm so sorry I couldn't see that, but maybe that later on I'll go through her version, whatever she has written down. Okay, so with this, we move to the next slide, and that is about transition from passive to active learning. And this is, there is this beautiful cone of experience, which has been given by Edgar Dale. And it sounded very interesting to me, because how many times in classes we rely on the listening power of students, right? We consider that, okay, you are supposed to listen everything well, right? But if we talk in terms of their retention, or if we talk in terms of their learning, then here is something which altogether, I should say, portrays a contrary picture, right? So the transition from passive learning to active learning involves more of building, constructing, and completing teaching on the part of students. Instead of teacher completing everything, if the students are teaching maybe to their own fellow students, if they are building, constructing, and completing, then it is almost 70% or 90%. So average learner's retention after 24 hours, if he has listened something, it is barely 5%. Barely 5%. If he has read something, it is 10%. Seeing and hearing is at the 20%. If he has observed something, 30%. If he has discussed, then it is almost 50%. Maybe that once I have taught something, maybe if I get them indulged in a group discussion, they are able to retain the things better. Building, constructing, and completing is almost at 70%. And if they are teaching, or if they are discussing it with their fellow students, then the learning is, I should say, the best one, 90%, right? So if we talk about the initial part, there the teacher is talking, but if we move ahead to the student talking, it always is moving towards, I should say, active learning, and the students are able to retain the things better, students are able to grasp the things better, and definitely we are heading from passive to active learning, right? This may sound a bit, I should say, strange, this may sound a bit, I should say, unusual, but yes, that is Edgar Dale's cone of experience, and I somehow relate with it, because with my my experience, I have seen that this really happens in our classrooms. Now let's talk about, I hope you all might have heard of this, a form of, I should say, blended approach where we come up with all these flipped classrooms. And nowadays they are very much in vogue. In several schools and colleges, the teachers have been opting for these flipped classrooms where the students are studying the content at their home and classrooms are meant for discussion. Right? So online audio or video lectures are listened and watched at home, and class time is basically reserved for discussion, hands-on applications, problem solving, games, and other interesting activities. So I believe everything has got influenced with that cone of experience, where maybe that if somebody is listening, if somebody is reading, the retention or the learning may not be a perfect one. And therefore, if in classroom we keep the space for discussion, for problem solving, for games, for brainstorming sessions, for all other interesting activities, then definitely the learning is a better one. I am confident that several teachers must have already been following the strategy of flipped classrooms. Next, just let's study about the another trait which is also in picture, and this is inquiry-based learning, which basically means triggering the curiosity of the students. Because nowadays, if I talk about the resources, yes, if I talk about my time when I was a student, maybe that there was a dearth of resources. Maybe that I did not have so many means which were available to acquire the I should say knowledge. But if I talk about today's generation, then they are blessed with, I should say, multiple resources. They have got abundant resources with them, right? So it is very important to trigger their curiosity, because if their curiosity is triggered, then definitely they will be able to acquire information, they will be able to acquire knowledge also. But let me even here stress upon the difference between information and, I should say, communication. Information is just giving out, where we are conveying something to students, and communication is getting through, right? Sometimes I should say both the terms are interchangeably used for each other, right? Whereas there is a difference between communication and information. So if I talk about inquiry-based learning, here what really happens, students or tutors establishes an inquiry task, that this is something which we want to explore, and it will be better if your students come up with this inquiry task, because then they will be more keen to explore it. Then they pursue lines of inquiry, and they often do it in group. This is my personal opinion, and I have seen it with my experience also, that in case you assign something to one particular student, maybe that he's not very enthusiastic. But once you assign them in pairs, or once you assign them in group, then they very enthusiastically execute the task. So maybe that they pursue line of inquiry even in groups. Then students draw on their existing knowledge and identify new learning and information needs. Later on, they start seeking that information and evidence from multiple resources, because now the sources are there with them, right? Adequate resources are there with them. So they try to acquire that information. Later on, more important part is that they start discussing, receiving guidance and feedback, and they synthesize information. Maybe that they have been able to collect so many things from different resources, but then they have to learn how to synthesize the entire information, how to put the entire things on a piece of paper. What can they learn from it? And then reflecting, analyzing, and communicating ideas and results, working with peers and teachers as partners, or participating in an inquiry committee. So community. So once they reflect, once they realize, they are able to evaluate it themselves, which particular strategy has really worked for them and what did not work for them, right? They might have been able to explore even several resources also, but which resource is to be relied upon, which resource they should be synthesizing information from, and which resource is not to be relied. They happen to acquire all these details with them. And believe me, if we are able to trigger that curiosity in students, then definitely the learning path is going to be more smooth for them. Next one point which I want to stress upon is the transition from competence to capacity building, right? Generally, I should say that if we talk about competence and capability, then probably we use both of the terms interchangeably, but they are not similar. Right? How many times we just, I should say, stress upon the point that I want to build on the competence of my students. But today's teacher is supposed to move towards this capability building, right? Now, how do the two terms differ? Let me come up with that point. If I talk about competence, then what individuals know, what my students know or are able to do in terms of knowledge, skill, and attitude. What do they know? What can they do? And what is their attitude, right? That is competence. But if I talk about capability, it is using the same competence, using the same knowledge, same skill, same attitude in new, uncertain, complex, and changing circumstances. So I should say that one is more theoretic in nature, but another one has a practical application, right? They might be very good at knowledge, but unless they are able to use that specific knowledge in order to solve their problems, in order to problematize, or in order to come up with the solutions of a particular problem, till then the purpose is not going to be achieved. So we have to make the students, we have to move towards this capability building instead of competence. If we talk about competence, then assessment is generally in stable environments, familiar problems. We know that this might emerge, right? And we try to assess them with predictable circumstances. But if we talk about capability, then the setting may be familiar or unfamiliar. And the same goes on in life also, right? How many times we are supposed to confront something which is unforeseen, which is not an experienced one, right? Life may pose us a threat, life may pose us a challenge, and maybe till now we have not been able to experience that challenge. So heading our students from this competence to capability, that is also the task of a teacher. So instead of just instilling that knowledge, skill, and attitude in them, we have to make them life ready. We have to establish the practical implication of theoretical knowledge, right? So we are to make them capable individuals. That is more important. And I hope this might sound a bit bizarre to all of you, but it is a capability framework. You might be wondering what it is all about. But Neve and Hanks came up with this capability framework. And if I talk about competence, then competence simply has levels of knows how, shows how, and does. But once you start integrating all those principles for your life to solve the challenges of life, to solve the problems of life, you start heading towards this capability framework. And if we are able to instill this capability framework in our students, then definitely they will be more creative. They will be able to think out of box. They will be self-aware. They will know how to learn. They will be able to identify underlying principles. They will emerge as better, confident individuals. They will be exuding that, I should say, positive body language. They will be self-efficacy. They will be having self-efficacy. They will be good at team building, working effectively with other people. They will be comfortable with not knowing and uncertainty. That is, there may be certain things in life which they are not aware of. They will be able to know their own limits, and they will also come to know when do they want to seek help from other people. So I hope all of us should be working towards building our students into this capable individuals, capability framework, right? Next one feature, which I should say that yes is very practical in approach, and all of us have been practicing it in our classrooms: collaborative learning, right? So whenever the student is collaborating with the fellow student, whenever the student is collaborating with the teacher, whenever the student is collaborating with his partner, whenever he is collaborating with his group, then definitely learning is far more advanced. It is far better, right? So a preference for collaborating and constructing knowledge with others, making use of technology in the process, because they are all millennials, right? So they love being in technology. So we can use technology in the right fashion, and we can give them an opportunity to collaborate. A partnership between students and staff for better mutual understanding, academic success, and personal growth. In this thing, what really works is this group work, and I hope all of you must have been exercising it. I know language teachers, they if we have any language teachers here, then they happen to opt for this group work in the classes, right? How many times we assign them, or we try to get the things executed in pair work or in group work, and definitely the students are able to learn the things in a better fashion. So in group work, they learn working effectively with diverse teams, right? Because maybe that I have got my students divided in a team of 10 members, right? So later on, when they come up with their review or when they come up with the feedback, then they often come up with all these points that maybe 10 members were there. All 10 members were having different attitude, different mental makeup, and it was really difficult to seek work from one or two individuals. So with this group work, even they learn how to work in a team. Because particularly if I talk about engineering students, we all know that the companies or the organizations where they are going to work, they will not be working in isolation. They have to work in a team. They have to work on a project. So they should be equipped with the art of working in teams. And this group work is going to equip them with the necessary skill. So gradually we ourselves are heading towards that capability framework. Exercising flexibility and willingness for a common goal. Value the contributions of each member. There may be somebody who is very enthusiastic, there may be somebody who has contributed immensely, and there may be somebody who has not been able to, I should say, contribute up to that extent. But then recognizing the contribution of each member, very important. And all these things also the students happen to learn whenever we are putting them to any group work. So role play may be there, group discussions may be there, brainstorming sessions may be there, games may be played, any activity can be conducted. But believe me, all this group work happen to contribute a lot in order to make them, I should say, a strong individual. Initiating, orchestrating, and managing may be done by teachers, and sometimes even it may be done by students themselves, right? Now, next, let's talk about getting students involved in learning, motivation. Because if the individual is motivated, then definitely they learn better, right? So, four kinds of motivation may be there. And if we are, why have I been able to include it in my slide? The simple reason is that once we are able to identify the motivation which works for that particular student, we will be able to address the issues in a better fashion, right? So instead of just coming up with the topic of the day that today we are going to study conditional sentences, maybe that poor student is not even acquainted with what is the use of conditional sentences and why should it be learned, what is the motivation for him. So if he is not feeling motivated enough to learn, he will not be able to grasp that particular point, right? So we have to establish that motivation for students. So how many kinds of motivation may be? One may be extrinsic, what the outcome produces. Then there may be social motivation also, what other people value. Achievement motivation, opportunity for ego enhancement. If you are able to achieve something, you are going to feel more motivated. You are going to feel that, yes, I have been able to achieve this in my life. Intrinsic motivation, the process of doing it, right? So whenever I'm teaching a particular topic, whenever I'm covering a specific element, then maybe that I can put the topic in all 4 categories, and I can establish the relevance for my students. Why should they learn that particular topic, right? And then I can come up with all those devices, with all those collaborative learning, which really works for them. Before I proceed further, I would like to ask, do we have any questions so far? Anything which you would like to say, or are you comfortable with me? I would love to know it from any person. Yeah, may I request?
It's all right, ma'am.
It's all right. Okay, fine. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes. Yes, madam, you are going well.
Okay,
Keep on,
fine.
keep on. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
yeah.
So next one is reflective teaching. And what do I mean by reflective teaching? I hope all of us have experienced it. Maybe that whenever I complete a particular topic, as soon as I step out of my class, I feel there is my conscience stating it to me that, Nija, it has been a wonderful day. You have been able to do justice today. You were superb, right? So we happen to hear that voice somewhere from within. Sometimes maybe that the content was completely prepared, maybe that I got the students involved with the activity, maybe that I have opted for all those strategies which I wanted to opt, but still somewhere when I step out of the class, there is a voice which says to me that yes, probably it could have been better today. You could have done this, or maybe that if you could have introduced this element, things would have been better. So that is reflective teaching, analyzing your own performance and then improving upon the things which could have been improved upon. Right? So reflective teaching, that is adapting as per the context and as per the strengths, right? So analyzing your own teaching, right? And then taking appropriate measures so that next day, whenever you emerge before those students, or whenever you conduct your next class, your teaching is a better one. Willingness to act upon the feedback of students. And I should say that the present era should be congratulated on the account that it is, I should say, giving the due weightage to feedback of students. There was a time when probably even the teachers were not very open to the feedback of students. But I feel quite relieved today whenever the teacher, maybe at the end of the class, just interacts with the students and just happens to ask them, do you have any feedback for me? Is it all right? Should I change my strategy? Right? So definitely the feedback of students is very important. And at every stage, the teacher should be conscious enough to ask it, and the teacher should be giving due weightage to it. Right? Teaching better by each passing day. So let me guarantee that if we have this reflective teaching, we are going to emerge, I should say, as a wonderful teacher, as a teacher who has been able to create a difference in the lives of students, right? So reflective teaching, I hope all of you must have been practicing it. E-learning, if I talk about, I should say, COVID-19, after COVID-19 pandemic, this word is very much in vogue. We have all been blessed souls that we have been learning with all these things. So with e-learning, there may be some synchronous and asynchronous learning. What do we mean by synchronous learning? Synchronous learning is the learning when the teacher and the student is online at the same time. Right? So maybe that the teacher interacts with one student. Students also happen to interact with each other. The teacher may talk to them one by one, or the teacher may address the entire class also. So that is a synchronous learning where teacher and students are online at the same time. But there can be then asynchronous learning also. So what happens with this asynchronous learning? That participants make their communication in their own time. They may they may drop an email, or they may write something on the bulletin board. So maybe that teacher has posted some of the questions on the bulletin board, and the students, whenever they are online, then they are responding to all those questions, right? But though definitely it is also in the stated deadline, but there might be some synchronous and asynchronous ways in which students learn. Then there may be individual and social use also. So again, the student and the teacher may converse one-to-one, one-to-many. Students may also interact with each other, and sometimes maybe that it may also be put to the social use. So I hope nowadays, when I should say even offline classes have also started, maybe that with some of the things we have been even preferring this e-learning, because through Google Classroom I have been able to share all those I should say handouts or worksheets or videos with my students. So that has given the teachers an edge over others. And this is something in which I believe I practice it in my own classes, and it really works wonder. Changing activities. Because believe me, if I talk about today's generation, then their attention span is very low. Right? They are not able to concentrate for a long time. If it is almost a lecture of 1 hour, believe me, because might be that you are aware of the fact that we listen to 150 to 180 words per minute, but our mind is capable of processing 500 to 750 words per minute, right? And therefore, even whenever we are listening something else also goes on in mind. So maybe that whenever I'm teaching, something else is also going on in the brain of my student. And therefore, their concentration flags just after 15 minutes. Right? So I need to change my strategy so that they do not lose their focus. Right? And believe me, if you segregate your class in the same, suppose if it is a 1 hour class, and if you segregate that after 15 minutes, okay, I'll opt for this strategy. Maybe after again 15 minutes, I'll opt for this strategy. This really works wonder. You are able to hold the attention of your students. Some suggestions what you can do. After 15 minutes of lecture, maybe student shares with his pair what he has learned. So you can ask students that, okay, there is somebody who is sitting with you. So just share it with him, whatever you have been able to learn so far. Maybe even you can ask them. Each student may write a question sparked by 15 minutes of lecture for the neighbor or the teacher, right? You may ask him to pose the same question to the teacher or to his neighbor, right? Depending upon, or I should say, based on the content which you have been able to discuss. Or even a problem can be assigned either individually or in pair about the thrust of the session. And if you plan your class, I should say, with these changing activities, you are able to hold the attention of your students, right? Another thing which really works in it, I hope even all of us have been practicing it, that is case-based learning, right? And believe me, it works wonder. It is already prevalent in law and business schools. I believe MBA students have been studying a lot about case-based learning, but maybe that in our engineering classes or maybe that in our classes, we are not able to practice it. So believe me, if you even go for this case-based learning, it also helps, because then the students are able to learn, I should say, practical implications of any particular topic. And frankly speaking, if I talk about myself, then I have been conducting soft skills classes for my students. And in soft skills classes, I always make it a point to bring this case-based learning, and that works wonder. Right? Suppose if I'm teaching assertiveness to my students, I just come up with some of the scenarios, maybe 3 scenarios or 4 scenarios. And I just present them a situation, that think about this particular situation. And you will be wondered to know that they come up with fabulous responses. They come up with wonderful answers. Sometimes maybe that even in the same situation, I was not able to think of that innovative response which the students come up with. Right? So case-based learning is definitely something which can be practiced by all teachers. It bridges the gap between theory and practice. Relevant cases should be picked to address learning objectives. Definitely something which you are covering in your content. The same kind of case-based learning you can pick, and that definitely helps because they are able to make a practical implication of whatever they have learned so far. Allow students to hypothesize and reflect on their management of the case. How will you handle, right? How, if you are being put in the same situation, what is going to be your response? Maybe that, suppose if I talk about my own classes, I just ask them that maybe that you are the manager and you are not able to seek work from a particular employee. I present that kind of situation before them, and then they come up with fabulous answers, right? What can be done by a particular individual in order to mitigate all these problems or in order to overcome all these problems? So case-based learning is one another device which really helps. Heading towards the conclusion of my lecture, here is something physical spaces have been given. Then I have even been able to talk about the traditional use. What is the traditional use? And then the recommended use, right? So if we talk in terms of lecture theaters, seminar rooms, or classrooms, we generally consider them that, yes, they are made for faculty-led presentation, seminars, and workshop. But the recommended use may be of flipped classroom, and we have been able to talk about flipped classroom. Use of collaborative technology, student-led, faculty-facilitated collaborative debate and critique, group role play may be conducted, and other experiential learning. So once I devise that the physical space of lecture theatre can be put to all these uses, then maybe that I'll be able to hold the attention of my students and I'll be able to convey them the concepts in a better fashion. If we talk in terms of laboratories and studios, so we all know that the traditional use was directed experiments and exercises, performance. Faculty used to demonstrate the equipment, the experiment, and the student just used to follow it. So recommended use may be student-directed or informed experiments, productions, theatre, exercise, and even small group explorations may be there. Then the libraries or resources room. So earlier faculty used to direct that, okay, you are supposed to go through such and such book, right? That was the traditional use. But the recommended use is again collaborative, dialogic, self-directed meaning making, student research-led reading and learning. So earlier when we were talking about inquiry-based learning, so maybe that our libraries can be put to that inquiry-based learning. Field campus spaces. So traditional use was faculty-led tours, small group inquiries, exercises following stipulated techniques. But now the use is students generate new knowledge through research, student field presentations and interpretations, which make them again, I should say, life ready, right? They are able to emerge as confident individuals. Earlier, if I talk about the transit spaces, cars, trains, and buses, so we always used to stress upon this aspect that you are not supposed to even waste time. So the students used to opt for directed reading or thinking. Informal conversations used to go. But nowadays, individual and small group sharing and reflection, group learning via smart devices can take place. Campus spaces, auditoria, corridors, student accommodation, directed reading, that was traditional, watching audio and video podcast. But nowadays, the recommended uses they have become think stabs for peer sharing and group learning face-to-face and via smart devices. I hope you must be aware that several of the universities have already opted for all these strategies and they have been working a lot on it, right? Because maybe that whenever I talk about a confined setting of a classroom, maybe that my student doesn't get opened up, right? But if I'm meeting somewhere in corridors or somewhere in auditorium, then I should say, they are able to come up with their own thoughts. Right? Exhibition and conference spaces, earlier they were meant for transmissive presentation of faculty directed student material. But nowadays it is faculty, student, employer, multi-way dialogue is taking place, not just confining to one, but everybody has been conversing, everybody has been communicating, enabling critical interaction with student research, and networking is taking place, right? Because today's world is all about this collaboration, networking. We should be very good at networking and we should let our students also know this latest trend of networking. If they are able to network well, they are going to succeed in their lives. Classroom and corridor walls, earlier they were reserved for passive displays of material. Yeah, interactive, but nowadays interactive critique of materials, they are able to have on classroom corridor walls. If we talk about collaboratories, then earlier it was meant for faculty-initiated group inquiries, but now student-led problem solving and critical reflection via dialogue. Faculty offices, earlier they were made for formal tutorials or faculty-led feedback. Nowadays, it is for formative discussion between faculty and students directed by the latter. Peer mentoring spaces, might be that you must have heard about it. So earlier, simply one leader used to be there and he used to come up with all those material which are delivered by faculty. But nowadays, it is student-led participative inquiry and shared meaning and identity making. Coffee shops, libraries, museums. So earlier it was reserved for personal reading, watching some podcasts, but nowadays it is think stops for peer sharing, small group exploration and discovery. Last is virtual space, synchronous or asynchronous. So discussion boards, blogs, everything. So earlier it was meant for faculty communicating with individual students and groups, but nowadays it is made for peer production of knowledge, resources and meaning, peer questioning, answering in classes. If we talk about online undergraduate research journals, earlier they were made for student reading and authorship, but now student video reflections on personal research, reflective blogs, and our students are involved with all these activities. Social media, if we talk about that, traditional use was faculty communicating with student and student groups, but nowadays it is two-way developmental dialogue between faculty and students, and they have been conversing all these ways. Personal space. So earlier, traditional use was thinking within their own comfort zone, but nowadays it is thinking outside of the box, right? So I should say that all these are the changes which have emerged with time, and I should say we should be ready to assimilate all these changes in our teaching style, and we should be ready to execute them with our students, right? These are some of the references to which I have consulted to. And yeah, let me come up with the concluding slide that is about happy learning to us all, because learning undoubtedly never stops. So we should be good learners, right? So thank you so much, everyone, for listening very attentively to me. Let me just stop presenting it. I could see there was one remark, and yeah, I'll love to answer that question. Somebody asked me a question. Let me just stop presenting it.
I think was barriers of communications while taking the class.
Yeah, I'll
And
just
now negative feedback is used often in the classroom, then also how negative feedback can help students to improve.
yeah, let me just stop sharing this. Stop sharing. Yeah, I could find it. Yeah, let me get back. Okay, so I missed the question, and let me just go through that question. Where can I find it? Yeah, in chat box. Okay, so yeah, Shweta has written something about, but Azaz Ahmad has asked about, explain about the barrier in classroom for effective communication. See, there may be several barriers. Number one, it may be some intrapersonal barriers, right? Intrapersonal barriers, I hope you must have heard about it, you must have read about it. Intrapersonal barriers, the barriers which are there in me, right? Which are there with my own persona. Sometimes there might be individuals who do not feel confident enough to speak. Sometimes the individuals may be there who feel that, yes, probably we are not very confident. Probably our knowledge is not adequate enough to be conveyed to other people, right? So at times we struggle with all these intrapersonal barriers, the barriers which are there within me, right? Then we have got some interpersonal barriers also, right? So you might find that there are some of the people who are very shy, who are not very outspoken, right? They feel hesitant while talking to other people, right? So there may be some even interpersonal barriers, and I should say even there are several categories, or even there are several types of them. So being a teacher, there are several barriers, but being a teacher, it is the quality of a good teacher to overcome all barriers. First, considering that, yes, I'm an empowered individual, Yeah, and I can establish, I should say, better collaborative learning with my students, right? They should be in a position to learn the things in pairs or with group work, right? And then taking cues from them. Right. Suppose if I just come up with an example, suppose if you have been teaching to the class, right? Your session has continued almost for, I should say, 15 minutes or 18 minutes. And at the same time, you happen to feel that there is something wrong with students, right? Either some of them have started looking into their notebook, or they have started looking at their friends. So we should be quick enough to I should say, recognize, realize all those non-verbal cues also. And we should be immediately changing our strategies, right? Maybe that I can pose them a question, I can get them involved with some of the activity, I can ask even genuinely what is the reason of that distraction, right? So all in all, Ejaz Z, I would just love to say that the teacher has to be on his toes every time, right? And by being more vigilant, more alert, and I should say by being more accommodative also, right? I should not be having that approach that maybe my students don't know anything, or my students, they just, I should say, become disruptive as soon as I indulge them in any activity. There was a time when silent classrooms were being preferred by the people or by the evaluators. Today is the time when people say that a class which is storming with more brainstorming session or with group discussion, or where the students are participating, that definitely is a wonderful class, right? So I don't know, Ejazi, have I been able to answer your question? Negative feedback is used often in the classroom than positive feedback. So how negative feedback can help students to improve? Shweta, do you mean that negative feedback comes from students or does it come from someone else? Shweta, could you please clarify your question? You have written something about negative feedback.
Ma'am, negative feedback from students.
Students, okay. Shweta, I would disagree with you that they often come up with negative feedback. If they happen to come up with negative feedback, then there must be something which is actually perturbing them. It may be my style of delivery, it may be my pace of delivery. Because if I talk particularly about the students who hail from Rajasthan, and suppose if I talk about even my own classes, maybe that I have been communicating something, but they are not very comfortable with it. Maybe that my language poses them a problem, my pace poses them a problem, or maybe that my accent they are not well versed with. So if they are coming up with a negative feedback, right, and I hope they are not doing it deliberately. They have some genuine remark. They are very honest in their opinion. So we should be valuing it and we should ask them the reason, right? And maybe that being a teacher, it is my responsibility to improve upon all those aspects, right? And being a teacher, I believe all of us are experienced enough to know, to gauze whether a candidate is really genuine in his remark or not, right? We happen to know all these things. Shweta, have I been able to answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So Rajesh ji has asked how to integrate theory teaching with practical learning as we treat them separately and have separate classes. Right. I should say all of us have, I should say we have separate classes. And I should say if the group is a small one, that is always a better one. Right? Though practically speaking, with today's scenario, even in our classrooms, almost I should say 80 students are there. So it becomes really difficult on the part of a teacher as well as on the part of a student, because maybe that there is one individual, but he is not able to let his voice being exposed to the teacher or being even exposed to his fellow students. So it really becomes difficult, but I would just suggest that if it is feasible for you to have them in small groups, right, and then coming up with practical implications of whatever you have been teaching. Suppose if I talk about one of my topic, if I am dealing with tenses or if I am dealing with conditional sentences, right? I just start teaching that, okay, there are 3 kinds of conditional sentences. That is type 1, type 2, type 3. So I'll have to come up with the practical usage of it. How are they going to use their knowledge of conditional sentences? How is it going to help them in framing better sentences, in framing the correct sentences? So I'll have to integrate, I should say, theory teaching with practical implications of everything. Let me just come up with another example with which probably I'll be able to get my point clear. Suppose if there is a one topic, team building, right? And suppose if I am supposed to teach my students team building, and if I teach them all theory about it, that okay, team building has 4 stages, there is one forming, then storming, then norming, and all stages are there, maybe that they will not be able to connect with it. But if I assign them an activity in which they are supposed to execute a particular task, they will be able to relate it better. That maybe initially when you were conversing with your fellow students, you were in the stage of forming. Later on, you opted for storming. Later on, it was the norming stage which was clearly visible, right? So once I have explained them the theoretical implications, until I talk about the practical implications of it, or until they have been able to realize the practical implications of it, till then the things are not, I should say, going to be adequate, right? They are going to feel that something is missing, right? So we have to get it clear with students. And undoubtedly, I hope if you have smaller groups, that really works wonder. If it is a class of 80, definitely it is very difficult to address the grievances, address the feedback of everybody. But if you have a smaller, I should say, group, then people are able to, the students are able to open up better. They can put forward whatever their remark is, or whatever whatever their feedback is. Pawan ji, do you want to say something? Pawan, Meena, do you want to say something? Yeah. Okay. Any other question? If you could unmute yourself and if you could let me know.
Yes, madam. Nice to hear you that you have very well, touched this topic. Now, 3 main issues which has come: barrier in communications, negative feedback, integrating the theory with the practice. Now, see, because for involvement of students becomes very important in our teaching process. If they are not involved in the teaching process, they will give negative feedback. There will be a lot of barriers in the communications, and the theory will not be properly integrated with the practice. Now, I give the lively examples. I asked one of the students, I'll be sharing a few examples so that further we'll support these things. I asked one of the students in the classroom, she came in 5-7 minutes, she read out the. Then I called another students, whatever she has read out and whatever now you speak out in front of students. Okay. Sir, I was lost in the class, sir, my concentration, I don't remember anything. I mean, students as usual make excuses. But I was after him, even if you speak one sentence before the class, I will accept it. His colleagues also said, when sir is saying, why don't you go? Ultimately, he came. Right. And Madam, she remembered more than 50% the speaker has spoken about it. Then I put a question to him. Who stopped you to come here? Who stopped you to come here? Whether I stopped you or your colleague, your friend, he stopped you. And the student was very honest, was doing MBA international business. He was very honest. He said, sir, I stopped myself. Then I put a question to him. We ourselves put a full stop in our career, in our growth. No one else is responsible. Yeah. And that students in three company which came for the placement, 3 times he was stopped because he was not in a position to make a presentation before others. He had a very shy nature. I cannot make my presentation. I cannot speak before others. Yeah. As a teacher, it becomes our duty or me to judge what is the need, requirement of students, and then nurture, groom, and then develop them.
Yeah. Sir, I would just...
He developed that feeling, he developed that confidence. I can speak before others, I can speak for others. And after some time, when he made his presentations before the company people and he was selected.
Right.
Now, communication is very precise. It should be understood in the way we want to make them to understand it. Coming back to your first, one day my manager he issued an office order that all employees will sit for till further instructions. All employees will sit for overtime till further instructions. Just
Right.
all employees, they were about 50 people, they came and they gave out me. Sir, why we should sit for overtime? Sir, our work is not pending. Till what time we should sit for overtime? See, again, if there is some ambiguity in the communication, all these they were told, you will sit for overtime because of these reasons. Because of sitting overtime, these things, how long you wait in the overtime, your corporation is solicited to sit for overtime. All the people, they started these things. So communication is the most important thing.
Undoubtedly, undoubtedly. Thank you so much, Rathi sir. I would like to come.
Yes.
I just wanted to come up with an example.
Now you are holding a class. Yeah. Class, you're taking a class. The door of the main door is open. Now 2-3 interpretations can be made. Yes, door is open, you go out. Yes, door is open, please come in. Servant is always there. See, therefore, which involves more than one interpretation. It's not in a communication, it has to be very precise. And therefore, all problems come, and therefore, we are delivering our topics. They should communication in a very precise and statement. And immediately we take the feedback. You are right. Immediately we take the feedback. Yes, please speak up.
Yeah, Nirja ma'am, I have to say something.
Please.
Yeah. Communication is the game of knowledge, basically. I'm more knowledgeable, I'll communicate better.
Definitely.
Yeah, because mouth to mind relationship has, if you're in your mind, there is a knowledge, then you will definitely come out of your mouth. It will come out of your mouth. I think in the classroom, what happens, many of the students have a different level of knowledge about the subject matter. Teacher is having a lot of knowledge. So what happens is the teacher to see that how I can increase the level of knowledge of the students so that they are able to communicate better. Everything, most of the imperatives, if you look at, is directly proportional to the knowledge content that the mind has.
Undoubtedly.
And communication and other imperatives, smartness and all, involvement and everything becomes, the factor of knowledge.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
Very,
completely agreed with you, because the content and definitely, unless I have the complete knowledge of my topic, till then I'm not going to be confident at all. Till then I'm not going to acquire, I should say, even the attention of my students, because see, everything is available on internet. So I'll have to prove it to my students that undoubtedly, if they happen to attend classes, they are going to gain much more, right? So you have absolutely pointed out the very right thing, that the teacher has to have the complete mastery of their own content, right? And meanwhile, even I would address one of the things which was said by Dr. Ranbir Rathi. He was talking about the presentation of students. So I would just like to come up with an example, the strategy which I follow. Whenever it is the turn of student presentation, our students are also supposed to come up with a presentation. So in my classes, the mechanism which I opt for is that I assign some of the roles to students, and I don't let them know in the very beginning, right? There is going to be one of the timekeeper, there is going to be one of the grammarian who is going to point out, who is going to take care of the grammar of students, right? grammar of the presenters, I should say. And then there are 4 other people who are writing down the feedback. So initially at the beginning of the presentation, nobody is aware that who is going to be asked for what kind of task. But later on, once the presentation is over, then randomly I may ask anybody. Maybe I can ask Suraj to come up with the feedback. I can ask Raman to come up with the grammar of that particular presentation. So this way what happens that the students themselves, they remain very much involved with the activity. Right? And that is the point which I was trying to make clear when I was talking about this collaborative learning, right? Even the students are also able to learn better, because suppose if their fellow mate is coming up with that, yes, you were fabulous with this and this. And I always advise them to begin with some of the positives, right? That your presentation was superb with this and this, but it would be better if you improve upon this and this aspect, right? So it is a form of collaborative learning. And with this also, the students happen to learn better. Meanwhile, even I would love to answer this question, which has been posed by Rajesh Kavadia ji, and he has said about
just a small reference here.
Yeah.
It is just, your communication just works like a stream. In your mind, there is a jheel there. The water flows out of your mouth. That's what I had to say.
Right.
The more the water in your mind, the more better would be the stream.
Definitely, undoubtedly. And he has asked about non-verbal communication. So it has been very rightly said by Peter Drucker that the communication is basically to hear what isn't being said. Right? So how many times maybe that the students are not speaking a single word in the class, but at least the teacher should be smart enough to have all those to take the cues from all those non-verbal gesture and posture, right? Maybe that if they are sitting in a slacking position in the classroom, it is also an indication for the teacher, right? Maybe that if they are sitting cross hands, it is again an indication for the teacher, right? So we should be smart enough to observe, I should say, all those non-verbal cues in a perfect fashion. And we should be in a position to, I should say, modify even our strategy as per their non-verbal cues, right? If it requires some kind of questioning from my side, if it requires some kind of involvement from their side, then I should be smart enough to grab that, and automatically at that very moment, I'll have to change my strategy. Right? I hope, Rajesh ji, it is a long topic. Maybe that some other time, whenever something is organized, maybe I would love to conduct a session on non-verbal communication also. Right? So, yes, any other question or any other observation, if you would like to point out?
Expressions, communication itself is a separate.
Yeah, undoubtedly.
So,
any other
participant Radhaman, he expressed about the knowledge. Knowledge, of course, is very, very important. It on the part of the fact to build a confidence, but how you transmit that is more important. How this knowledge is conveyed to the students, and how they are involved in your deliberations, that becomes very important.
Right.
Otherwise, without knowledge, less confident.
Yeah. So it has to be a blending of, I should say,
Yes, please come out.
Yeah. I should say it has to be a proper blending, a proper amalgamation. A proper amalgamation should be there. We cannot say that one is something very prior, and we cannot say that the style or your delivery doesn't matter at all. Definitely, there should be a judicious combination of the two. Right?
Rati sir, with knowledge, you can hypnotize the class, like Nirja ma'am is hypnotizing this session. So, yeah. Students gets spellbounded actually. They are hearing your comments, your smile, your laugh, your jokes, your everything becomes part of is a recording machine there in their head, and they are gaining in the knowledge, and they are maybe when the class is over, they may have n number of questions which they will go to the internet and they will solve the problem, and in tutorial probably you can exchange those questions and make them more clarified. So that is the way we give the knowledge basically. So knowledge is the key, man. That is what I am saying. Communication is only through knowledge. I don't know if Nirja ma'am can cut me this and can give more explanation. I'll be happy to say that.
Undoubtedly, Ramanji, that is an absolutely valid point that yes, there is no substitute of knowledge. And unless my student feels that yes, I'm going to gain something which is not available on internet, till then probably he is not going to attend classes, right? So that's very important. But undoubtedly, it should be, I should say, there should be a judicious combination of your delivery also, right? Because otherwise, maybe that I come up with a beautiful content, I come up with an excellent delivery, but my student, if he feels baffled that I have not been able to gain anything, I believe even the entire delivery's effect is totally marred, right? So there has to be a judicious combination of the two. That is my perception.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes,
Thanks, ma'am. Thanks.
Thank you very much, madam. You lot of queries were there because the topic is of such a great importance, but taken the topics perspective, which is the need of the Madam, stay for a minute because Science Institute of Technology, they want to honor you with a small bit of
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much in these sessions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm happy that Shankara has taken up the task of organizing this FDP. It is a pertinent theme, and undoubtedly, I believe it is going to carve a beautiful journey for all of us who are teachers, because we are constantly learners. So definitely all such sessions help us a lot. So thank you so much, and congratulations to Shankara College. Thank you so much, Shweta, for coordinating everything.
Yes,
and thank you so much.
Yes, this is the memento which has come.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Yes. To our email.
Thank you so much, sir.
Both the things has come, certificate and memento. Okay. Yes. So thank you very much, madam.
Thank you so much. My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yes. Oh. Yes.
Thank you all for being such patient listeners, patient, attentive, and vibrant listeners.
Participants, small instructions that will start at will be
Hello. Hello, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. I was just checking मेरा share हो पा रहा है screen के नहीं. Good afternoon, sir. Namaste, sir.
Yes, yes. Good afternoon, madam. Welcome you here. Yes, yes, we can wait for another few minutes. Because
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
your
No
topic
problem.
is so intense. I want more participation here. Yes.
Participants to be
Okay.
there. Great, sir. Nice, sir.
Yes. Yes, Dr. Alvin. Hello. Hello. Hello.
कॉल लग गया, वो हटिया नहीं रहा।
Hello, Alvin. Hello. Hello, Dr. Alvin. हेलो, मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
यस यस आ रही है सर, आवाज आ रही है।
आ रही है?
यस
Yes, Madam Dr. Alvi. Yes. Okay, we are sorry that because of some technical glitches, connectivity was there. So, Madam, before you take the session, I just want to give a brief of you to the participant. Hello. Alvi, you are, before that some problems were there in connectivity. Now I some problem at your level. Now is okay? Can you get me, madam? Hello. Hello, Dr. Alvi. Hello. No, वो तो ठीक है. Hello, dear participant. There are some technical problems in connectivity. Will be huh?
Yes. Good
Yes,
afternoon, sir. Good
yes,
afternoon.
Dr. Alvi.
Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
Sir,
Previously, it was some problem
yes,
here at our end. Now, some problem at your level. Now, it's
sir.
comfortable. You can get me.
Yes, sir.
You
Yes,
get
sir.
me
Yes,
now.
sir. You're audible. Yes, sir. You're audible.
Asha.
Thank you, sir.
Before you take the sessions, I will just give a of you to the participants.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Arvi, MA gold medalist, PhD is presently working as a faculty in English department and assistant dean. Professional community charge training. He has organized several faculty development programs and conferences. Dr. Alvi has a professional experience of more than 18 years in academics and training in the area of professional communication skills, soft skills. Dr. Alvi has published several papers in blind peer-reviewed journals, presented papers at national and international seminars, conferences, workshops, as a resource person, guest speaker, and keynote speaker. Her research includes post-colonial writings, diaspora studies, professional communication skills, technical communication skills, soft skills, and American and Indian literatures. She is in the editorial committee of college magazines. She knows several languages, including Persian, Urdu, Hindi, and English. She is a poet, writer of short stories. Over to you, madam. This topic of today's discussion is teaching skills for technical teachers. The session is of 90 minutes durations. And in between also, if you feel confident, you can take queries, the questions from the participant. Otherwise, 5-10 minutes before end of the sessions, you can leave for the participant for question answers. Okay, so over to you,
Thank
madam.
you. I welcome everybody to this session, and I would like to start my presentation. So I'll be sharing my screen with you. Kindly give me a minute. And all right. So dear participants, we are very sorry for the delay which was caused due to some technical issues. So we'll be starting now. Uh, we are talking about teaching skills for technical teachers. We all, most of us, are teachers, and I hope that we all know that as teachers, we are interested in helping our students achieve learning outcomes. We want them
Madam,
to learn, to acquire
yes,
skills.
madam,
Yes, sir.
just excuse me, just please raise your voice. Your pitch is
Oh,
slight.
okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Just raise your voice.
Sir, is it better
Okay?
now? Is it better now?
Yeah.
Better. I will stop the video so that the bandwidth is better. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll be stopping my video so that I'm
Yes, yes,
audible. Okay.
yes.
Right. Okay. Thank you, sir. So
Audible.
as
Yeah.
teachers, we
Okay.
all wish to. Thank you. As teachers, we all hope to help our students to achieve meaningful learning outcomes. We want them to acquire knowledge, to acquire skills, to enhance their capacities, to build up their abilities. So we want to help our students in one way or the other. But the question is, what have you helped your students to achieve in a course that you have taught most recently? I would like you to think about it, to ponder about it, to give time to yourself and question yourself. हमने अपने students को क्या सिखाया है? Okay, so this is one thing. I'm really sorry, my throat is not, I have a cold and cough. So sorry for that. And so we are interested in, getting our students to learn and achieve something. So the first question that we should be asking from ourselves as teachers is, what have we helped our students to achieve, to acquire, to learn? And if we are not teachers yet, what have we ourselves learned from a course that we took recently? What are we looking forward to? So being able to carry out some meaningful statistics, it could be anything. It could be learning some new skills. It could be being able to explain a theory, being able to use what we have learned to solve a problem, or obtaining an interest in something which is new, searching for new knowledge, for new horizons, for new things. So the list is very long. And I would like you to question yourself whether we are really, as teachers, helping our students in one way or the other. So you can make a long list of what you are doing, and then we would like you to characterize and to categorize these things into different categories. Now, by reviewing the actual educational objectives teachers propose in practice, Bloom and his colleagues identified three domains of learning. The first one is cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. So, what do we mean by the psychomotor domain? The psychomotor domain defines the learning that deals with physical movement, coordination, and the use of motor skills. According to one of the researchers in the field, the name was Dave. Five major categories in this domain. So, psychomotor domain has five categories. The first one is imitation. It is the most basic level, which involves observing and copying the action of someone else. So, the first thing is that you watch and then you copy. You try to do the same as someone else is doing. That is imitation. The second level is manipulation, involving reproducing activity from instruction or memory. That this time you're not actually watching something being done, you are rather referring to some instructions or some manual or somebody's instructions which were given, or you are relying on your memory of what was done earlier to do the same task. So it is a step forward from imitation. The third level is precision, referring to the ability to execute skills smoothly, accurately, and independently. So this time you do not need any help from others. You are doing it on your own. So you have learned something and you have improved upon your ability and you are able to execute and to perform some task properly and accurately, precisely. Now the fourth level is articulation, means they're able to adapt or integrate expertise to satisfy a new context. It is a much advanced level, and the highest level is naturalization. Now, what does naturalization mean? It refers to an instinctive mastery of activity and related skills at a strategic level. So, these are the five domains of psychomotor skills or psychomotor. The first one was imitation, that is, you watch and you do. The second was manipulation, you rely on memory or instructions which are verbal to do the task. The third one is precision, you are doing it in a better manner, in a more skilled fashion. The fourth one is articulation, that is, you are able to respond to. Kindly unmute, kindly unmute, kindly unmute. Mute yourself, please. So the fourth one is articulation, which means able to adapt or integrate expertise. And the fifth one is naturalization. So up till now, we have covered the psychomotor domain. The next one is affective domain. Affective domain describes the emotional aspects of learning. It includes changes in interest, belief, attitude, value, and motivation. So we have different types of things which are included in the affective domain. The interests keep on changing, the beliefs are different and varied, the attitudes could be different, values are different, and of course, motivation, why you are doing something, could differ from person to person. Now, researchers have identified five major categories in this domain, which range from simple to very complex ones. The first one is receiving, which refers to the awareness of an attitude, behavior, or value, and the willingness to hear or receive information. So, first one is receiving information. The second category is responding, that is replying, giving answers. This goes beyond the willingness to receive information passively and then to actively attend to stimulus, willingness to participate, or showing enjoyment. So this time when you are responding, you are actively participating in the task. The third one is valuing, referring to the value a person attaches to a particular object, phenomena, or behavior. It involves an acceptance of a value. It has a preference for a value or a commitment to a particular task or value or action. The fourth category is organization. It involves conceptualizing different values, resolving the conflicts between them, and developing a personal value system. The fifth and the last one is characterization or internalization. At this level, a student already has a value system established, and he or she consistently, and in accordance with the values that he or she has internalized, acts according to them. So, this was the affective domain, and as I said, there are five stages to that. The first one was receiving, you're merely getting the information and the stimulus. The second was responding to the stimulus. The third was valuing. Now, this time it has become important for you. The fourth was organization, and the fifth one was internalization. Now it has become almost a habit with you. The third and the last domain is the cognitive one. It is perhaps the most important domain, and when we come to curriculum development and all that, we are differing to the cognitive domain. It involves the recognition of knowledge and the development of intellectual abilities and skills. This domain, that is the cognitive domain, there are six levels. The first one is knowledge. Knowledge is the simplest level, which focuses on memorization, recognition, and recall of information. So, the first and the basic one is that you recall something, you memorize something, and then you are able to articulate that. For example, if I give a question to the engineering students as a teacher, of technical subjects. For instance, I ask them to define a technical term by giving the attributes and properties. If I'm from the chemistry, I ask them what is the attribute of hard water. Okay, so what are these? This belongs to the domain of knowledge. The second one is comprehension. Comprehension is the second level, which focuses on translation, understanding the meaning, and interpretation of information. Now we are going ahead with knowledge. This time we are able to understand and interpret, to analyze properly. For instance, if I give a question such as explain some general principles by giving examples or illustrations. So whenever I'm asking for examples, for illustrations, whether the topic has been understood or not properly by the students, we are talking about comprehension. One is application. Application is the third level, which focuses on using or implementing learned material or concepts in a new situation. So this time the situation differs from the previous one, but the concepts are same and you are simply trying to apply them. For instance, predict the effect of change in a factor in a new situation. So this time I'm asking the students to apply the knowledge that they have acquired to some new scenarios, to some new situations, to some new things. The next and the fourth level is analysis. Now, analysis focuses on separating materials or concepts into parts and distinguishing between facts and inferences in order to find the underlying structure. So, we are going one step ahead every time we are building upon the knowledge. For instance, I ask them to recognize the casual relationships or identify the important and unimportant details in an account, in an incident. So when they are trying to distinguish between things, we are going for analysis. The fifth level is synthesis. Now, synthesis focuses on combining diverse elements together to build up a new structure or create something new. So, from the simple knowledge that they have acquired, the students move on and then they come to the final stage with the synthesis or creating something new. For instance, I ask them to formulate hypotheses based on some analysis. So, what are they doing? They are synthesizing something. And the highest level is evaluation, which focuses on making judgments on the value of ideas or materials. For instance, a teacher asks critically review the major theories in a field. So when you are evaluating the theories in the field of, let's say, physical science, of chemistry or physics or maybe some civil engineering, so what are you doing? You are critically reviewing the theories, that is, you are evaluating. Now, what has happened in recent times is that the updated version of this taxonomy in cognitive domain, the last two highest levels have been reversed. At this juncture, I would like you to watch a small video. It's an animation which tells us very nicely what an effective teacher is, who an effective teacher is, and what is expected from an effective teacher. So it's a very small animation, but quite interesting one. So kindly watch it carefully And let's see if you agree with what is being described as an effective teacher.
Andy is starting her first day as a third. Andy thinks she's ready. All his classes. See,
Wait, I would like to minimize this and then start the video because I think that sound was breaking. Okay, so just give me a minute. I will start it again. Not good. The quality of the sound was not good. Stand with me.
meet Andy. Andy is starting her first day as a third grade teacher. Andy thinks she is ready. She made all A's in her classes, received excellent letters of recommendations from her faculty, and all of her certification exams with high marks. Oh, here come Andy's students. Let's follow Andy through her first year as a teacher. Effective teaching does not occur naturally. Effective teaching is not achieved through simply knowing educational principles and theories. Effective teaching is not like a one-size-fits-all t-shirt. In order for effective teaching to occur, teachers must master professional knowledge and skills, reflection activities, and seek out opportunities for professional growth. Let's check on Andy. It's her third week. Oh, looks like Andy is having a rough morning. Veteran teachers can help her out on her path to becoming an effective teacher. In order to be effective, a teacher must be a subject matter expert. Being a subject matter expert is more than just having the general knowledge of facts and concepts. Being a subject matter expert includes knowledge about ideas, connections among ideas, ways of thinking and arguing, and patterns of change within a discipline, and the ability to carry ideas from one discipline to another. An effective teacher must also know pedagogical content knowledge. This is knowledge about effective methods of teaching a specific content area. Effective teachers have a large number of strategies for teaching. They are also aware of errors students tend to make and can anticipate when difficult situations may arise out of student frustration or lack of understanding. The effective teacher must engage in critical thinking, which is the process of evaluating data, research, and information. He will engage in thinking, not only analyze what he or she reads as best teaching practices, but also use critical thinking to analyze what the student's reasoning and thought processes might be. It helps catch misconceptions and minimize classroom frustration levels. And the teacher must engage in reflection, internally and externally. Internal reflection refers to assessing one's self-efficacy as a teacher.
So here we saw a lot of things which a good teacher has to do. Be effective and efficient as a teacher. You cannot be naturally in tune to it. Simply knowing the concepts is not important. You have to put them into action. And then one size that does not fit all. So that is, there are different things that are expected from a teacher. So on your screen, I have shown you a list of learning tasks. I hope that you can see them from here. A few tasks which I have enlisted. The first one is list the physical and chemical properties of aromatic compounds. Now, if you were to find a learning outcome for say these tasks, I would like you to give it a shot, give it a try, and see how far you are able to come up with the learning objectives of these tasks. The second one is interpret the results of history, taking physical examination and lab investigation. The third one is evaluate contemporary sociological theories. Next is write a report on research findings. Next, insert a cannula into a vein accurately and independently. The last one, identify the cultural issues when working with actors as simulated patients in three different clinical scenarios. So if these tasks, these learning tasks were given and you were asked to find out which domain they belong to. So you have to find out the domains. Let us go for the key to that. The first one is cognitive domain. I'm simply asking you to find the knowledge behind the task. The second one is analysis and application. You are interpreting the results. The third is evaluation. So, evaluating contemporary sociological theories. The next one is cognitive and synthesis because you are synthesizing the elements and then accordingly you are putting them into a report based on research findings. The next one is psychomotor domain, that is precision is required and there is a skill that has to be acquired and achieved, such as inserting a cannula into a vein. The next one is affective domain, simply receiving, you are identifying the cultural issue. And the last one is analysis. So these are the different types of domains for the knowledge that we have. Again, I would like to give a situation in which there are two students or maybe two persons that are there. So let's see. Wait, I will start it, from the desktop itself. So the situation is that there are two persons.
Imagine that your nose one tourist guide. Amy likes traveling. She's interested in meeting. She had a trip to Country B last year. She enjoyed the trip so much that she started to learn this language after coming back. She finds in the map that to Country B, so she decides to visit Country A this year, as she expects Country A. She decides to explore the rural have a students makes it a huge fan of the novel. As soon as that novel in the biggest city in A, although as he decides to go to Country A to visit the places. He has never been to any country similar to Country A and has no knowledge of its language. The whole is a country. People in the country have this of particular people in the country have their own national language. However, in the bigger cities, there are chances to find people in small cities or rural areas scarcely. As a personal tourist guide, how will you help that things that might affect their own personality of the country? Education secretary more planning skills.
I hope that you like the video and you are able to see that we are trying to find some similarities, some
परीक्षण का निर्माण करते हुए आंकड़ों का विश्लेषण
Please keep your
उपलब्धि परीक्षण का निर्माण करते हुए आंकड़ों का विश्लेषण.
Hello, participant, please keep your mobile at mute mode. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, madam, carry on.
Yes, thank you, sir. So I was talking about this example in which there are two persons. One is called Annie and the other is called Adam. Now, Annie, as you saw in the video just now, that she loves traveling and she has traveled to a country called Greece. Now, she has enjoyed the trip very much and she has even learned the language, the foreign language of country Greece after coming back. That person at your end?
Hello.
Okay, thank you. Hello. Yes, kindly mute that participant. So we were talking about an analogy or an example. By an example, I would like to describe how teaching could be, similar to that the task of a tourist guide. We are tourist guides for the students. So what happens is that we have two, participants. We have one Amy, and the other is named Adam. Now Amy, she loves traveling, whereas Adam, he is a book lover. He simply wants to sit at one corner of his room, and he is an introvert. He does not want to mix up with people. He does not like to visit places. But then he likes a book. And this book is made into a film. And he becomes a fan of the film. And this film is shot in a country A. So both Amy and Adam, both of them want to visit this country. They have a person identified as the tourist guide. Now, what does this tourist guide do for them? This tourist guide helps them. And what are the factors that can make the travel experience better for them? Maybe it could be their prior experience, it could be their language skills, it could be the motivation for the trip, it could be their expectations, it could be the communication skills, the planning skills should be very sound, the hospitality of the country. So there are so many factors which go into play when trying to make this experience a wonderful traveling experience for the Emmy and Andy. Now, what happens when we are tackling our students? Our students come from different backgrounds. I hope you can see the correlations between the factors in the story and the teaching and learning settings that we as teachers are experiencing. Adam, unlike our students, they come from all different kinds of personal backgrounds. So they have different likes, they have different dislikes, they have different values, they have different attitudes, they have different thinking, they have different mindset. So everything, likes, dislikes, preferences, everything differs from person to person. Our students are not simple just students. They have their own idiosyncrasies, they have their own personal likings and preferences. They come from different personal backgrounds. What is our role as teacher? We are tour guides. Similar to that of a teacher, we provide facilitation to them to experience and to enjoy the trip. We have to make learning enjoyable for our students. The country is like a university, like an institute, like a college. It has its own culture, it has its own climate and people. It is very difficult to identify all the factors, which are probably too many. So we cannot find out the exact factors which make learning enjoyable for the students, but still we can identify and compare the actual effect of all possible factors, which make it even more difficult because of the definitions of the factors and the outcomes are not always consistent. So there are different outcomes and different, results which are obtained. So in this lecture, we will look broadly at a range of factors that have a potential impact on students' learning according to scholars and researchers in the field. Hopefully, it will give you an overall picture of the factors involved. So what we are trying to do is trying to find out what are the factors which make learning enjoyable for the students. I would like you to view a model. It's a very beautiful picture of a model, which is, used by the scientists. Just 1 minute.
The three P's refers to passage, process, and product, respectively. It first digest and has been applied to evaluate students' learning refers to what exists prior to student, refers to what happens during before represent into of the interactive and other scholars approach. Passage has two major aspects. Characterization. On the student side, it includes such factors as student expectation, motivation, skills.
Ma'am, you are not audible.
And preference.
I'm not audible. Okay, let me
Yes,
start it
ma'am.
once again. Let me start it once again. I'm really sorry for that. Thanks for informing me. Thank you. Okay, so what I'm trying to show you is a model for learning. It has three P's. Okay, the three P's refer to presage, to process, and product, respectively. It was first proposed by John Briggs and has been applied widely by many scholars to evaluate students' learning in higher education. Presage refers to what exists prior to student engagement in learning. Process refers to what happens during learning process. Product refers to the outcome of the learning. The arrows that you can see here, they represent the interconnecting components. Briggs and other scholars in the field, Presage has two major components. You can see these two boxes over here. These are the components of Presage, and Presage refers to student engagement. The components are student factor and teaching factor. Now, student factor has prior knowledge, expectability and expectation, ability, motivation, skill, perceived efficacy, and learning preferences. Whereas the teacher context, it includes the nature of the subject, teacher's characteristics, resources provided, cultural and social factors such as peer interaction, institutional climate, classroom climate, and so on. So these are the two components of presage, what exists to, prior to engagement in the learning process. Next, we come to the process. When a student enters into a new learning environment, these two aspects interact with each other and have a joint impact on process of learning. So you can see that the learning process becomes different. For instance, ME doesn't have trip in country A, may be influenced by the country B. So in teaching and learning context also, the student handles the learning task may be influenced by his or her learning, such as quality and quantity of academic achievement or other affective behavioral and cognitive learning outcomes. So there are a lot of things that go into learning. So learning, again, is divided into two types. You have deep learning and the surface learning. And learning outcomes are three different types. You have quantitative, qualitative, and affective. The process, in turn, determines the product of learning. Here you can see the product of learning. The product of learning is the quality, the quantity, or otherwise the affective behavioral and learning outcomes. So the presage affects the learning outcomes. And here we have two factors, student factor and teaching factor, which both interact with each other. Now, as you can see, there are these reversible arrows. I hope that you can see them on the screen. So we have these reversible arrows. Now, what do these reversible arrows indicate in the model? The process can be impact on presage as well. So you can see that the learning outcome can change the presage. So here, the entire mental attitude of the student can be changed by the learning that he receives, by the learning outcomes that he receives, by the skills that he acquires. So the model is quite compact. The student's interaction and experiences in a given context will shape their beliefs, motivation, and learning style. So the student's beliefs and motivation, learning style, expectation, everything undergoes a change based on the type of education and learning that we are providing. Likewise, the product here is the product. It has a backwash effect on the process. So the product can also have effect on the process. At the heart of the model is the impact of the process on the product. So here we have the process impacts the product. So this is a very beautiful, model which clearly delineates how the students come with their some preconceived notions, prior knowledge, ability, expectation, motivation. On the other hand, the teachers, in the context of the teachers, they have the teaching methodology, they have the assessment, there's the climate of the institution, the climate of the class, and a lot of things. And all these things interact together to result in learning activities, which can be deep, which can be surface. And then these things reflect on the learning outcomes. As we have understood this model, the next one is a modified model, which was brought about by Trigwell, which was given by Trigwell and Prosser. He added a new component to this model. You can see that a few new components have been added to the model of students' perception of the learning context. So the students, how they perceive learning becomes very important. The important effect of student perception on the learning. Now, shows that the students who perceive the teacher as good, work assessment as appropriate, and goal standard as clearly communicated were more likely to adopt deeper learning approaches. So it's very important at the level to be clearly communicated. Such positive perceptions and deep approaches to learning also facilitate better achievement. This is another widely cited model in higher education. It has been proposed by Bachelor, which looks at the factors that have an impact on student learning and cognitive development. It has a lot in common with the three models that you just saw. For example, this model also includes students' pre-college traits and conceptual factors. Now, on the other side, the students' pre-stage factor involve the attitude, the achievement, the personality, the aspirations, the ethnicity. So a lot of things go into the model. The institutional contextual factor involves the enrollment, the selectivity of the university, faculty-student ratio, the percentage of residual students, and institutional environment. So the environment is very important again. The unique factor in this model is student interaction with the agents of socialization, such as faculty and the peers, that is the colleagues that they have. Another feature is the emphasis on the quality of the student effort. Bachelor holds, he maintains, he puts forth that the quality of effort is shaped by student background traits. The Journal Institute environment and socializing impact of the faculty and fellow students. When all these things are put together, they are able to, result in a better quality of the students. So as you can see that all these things result in learning and cognitive development of the students. Now, there are some other areas that are left behind. Each has a different ending point. So there's various different models which are there, various, I've tried to explain how learning could be made more effective, but each has different, uh, some look at the factors that lead to student departure decision. Some look at the factors that contribute to student socialization outcomes. So different things which are being focused upon when we are talking about learning. And the two models that I have just shown you are the most frequently cited models that focus on learning outcomes. What is proposed by the models is that there are four major types of factors that have a direct impact on student learning outcomes. Okay, the first one is student's personal factor, the traits, the attitudes, the motivation, the personality, everything that a student is. The second is the teacher factor, the teacher-student ratio, institutional factor, peer factor. So all these four factors result in learning. On the student side, the relevant factors can be prior knowledge, ability, motivation, quality of student effort, and learning approaches. On the student side, the factors include teaching method, assessment practices, clarity of learning goals and standards, and teachers' interaction with students as a socialization agent. And the socialization agents in the university themselves, the students may have impact on each other. So the students are also able to affect each other through their interaction. It's not just the teachers which are important in the institute, it's also the peers which they have. At the institutional level, institutional intellectual climate may have direct impact on student learning. So you can see that the impact of the student is quite visible. In addition, there are two factors which might have indirect effect on student learning outcome. As a result of the interaction between a student's personal trait and the institutional learning context, the student's perception of the learning context might also have indirect effect on a student's learning outcome through the direct impact on student learning approaches. So the learning approaches, the institution factors, the teacher, so all these things, they go into the process of learning. Now, at the institutional level, the structural characteristics of institutions, such as faculty-student ratio, selectivity, and the percentage of residual students all have effect on the student learning outcome. We see new students coming to the institutes. While you make effort to help them meet their expectations to higher education, you might be wondering what factors might contribute or hinder the attainment. The students keep on changing, and we can see that there is always a change that is going on. So we would like to find out what is the best way of teaching. At the institutional level, the characteristics of an institution, the ratio of the students, and all these things, the environment also have a great effect on the students' learning method. So, now thinking about the principles which are there for effective teaching. At this moment, I would like to stop for a little while and take any questions that you might be having. So, if you have any questions, you can please ask me. So, I continue. Hello. Hope I'm audible.
Yes, madam, you can continue. In between, any question comes, that will be in the chat box. Yes, you can continue. It's going well.
Thank you, sir. I think I have
Yes.
half an hour left. I think I have half an hour.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yes, we'll be discussing the principles, for effective teaching, because we are talking about how to make learning and teaching effective. We discuss what are the factors. Now, once we have understood the factors which are important in making learning interesting and effective, we'll be talking about the principles that are effective for teaching. So there are 7 principles for effective teaching. This is the first one. Is there any general principle that we can follow for effective teaching? I'm sure this is a question that you might be having. Many of you might heard a lot of advice. We have teachers being told that they have to engage students in sharing knowledge. You have to think of interesting topics for student discussion. You have to have setting ground rules for the first class, demonstrating respect for students, creating safe learning environment. You know, there are so many advices which are given to us. There's so many suggestions, but what works? In fact, regarding the principles of good practices in university teaching, scholars called Kierkegaard and Gamson have provided the opinions. They have put forward 7 principles based upon studies on good teaching and learning practices in higher education. So we are going to be discussing these 7 principles, which have been given by Kierkegaard and Gamson. Research on practical experiences of students and teachers of different disciplines in different contexts still support these principles nowadays. So they are not outdated, they are still valid, and we can put them into practice. I'm sure you must be remembering the 3P model that we discussed. The first step was presage, that is, the student's characteristics and the teaching context, has an impact on the process of student learning. The process, in turn, determines the product of learning. So the 7 principles proposed by these 2 researchers concentrate on what a teacher can do for process. Now there are 7. The first 5 of them discuss what the teacher can do on his side, and the last 2 on what the teacher can encourage the students to do on their side. What a teacher can do to encourage. The first one is encourage cooperation among students. In a learning environment where cooperation instead of competition among students is encouraged, it is noticed that students are more willing to share their ideas and respond to each other, through which students can get their ideas tested among each other. You must have seen that, especially in Kota, there is a very competitive environment. So this competitive environment is not very good. Instead of that, if it was cooperative, the students would have shared knowledge. So what is basically required from us as teachers, technical students, as technical teachers, we have to encourage cooperation. We have to apply the listening, comparing, and demonstrating. We have to analyze them and cooperate them. So, such kind of cooperative learning involves a range of cognitive engagement of students from lower level. So what is the lower level? Explaining, listing, comparing, demonstrating. Higher level. So what is the higher level? Applying, analyzing, evaluating, creating. When the students are cooperating, they can go from lower level to higher level. Students should also benefit from exposure to different opinions. The collaboration increases students' engagement in learning and enhances their understanding. The collaborative environment is very important, especially for technical institutes, and it can be gained and achieved in both large and small classrooms through learning groups. So you can have a very huge group, you can have small groups, and then the students can cooperate with each other and learn together. For examples, students can be organized into groups to discuss, solve problems, to debate, to do presentations, or to work on projects together. So there are a wide variety of activities in which the students can be involved. How the group should be organized depends on the demand of the task. So there is no one style fits all, one rule fits all. So you can make different types of groups. The layout of the classroom is also important, and the kind of dynamics you want to achieve among the students also plays a major role. For instance, if a course is aiming at fostering interdisciplinary perspective, the teacher may deliberately assign students of different disciplines into one group, giving them opportunity to meet regularly throughout the semester. So what is happening? We are trying to inculcate in them and foster in them interdisciplinary perspectives. The long-term and deep engagement with each other will help achieve the purpose. So once the students are mingling together, their perceptions will also broaden. Let's come to the second principle. The second principle is encouraging cooperation among students and active learning among students. Learning will not happen if students are not actively and mentally engaged during the learning process. So we have to engage them into the learning process. This does not mean learning would not happen when students are listening. It means that learning should go beyond merely the input of information, such as listening, reading, or watching. So the students should, go beyond merely becoming passive participants. They should be actively involved in the process of learning. There should also be demand for output of information as well, where the students need to actively process the information and develop their own learning. Learning does not really happen unless the knowledge is integrated into students' own knowledge system. So we are not merely giving them the knowledge, but we are trying to integrate this knowledge in their knowledge system. Active learning can be achieved through various ways, like encouraging students to relate what they learned to their prior knowledge, relate to the reality, apply through case studies, solve real life problems, or work on projects. So these are some ways in which you can make the students actively involved in the process of learning. Active learning can occur in the classroom, in the community, or in the virtual learning environment. So there is no excuse that we cannot engage them into active learning anywhere. This can be performed at any sphere, at any part of the learning process. These two principles suggest what a teacher may encourage among the students. So there are two things that you have to encourage. The first one was cooperation. The second one was active learning. Now we are discussing 5 things that the teacher has to do. The following 5 principles are about what a teacher can do on their side for effective teaching. The third principle maintains good contact with the students. We have to, really work hard on making a good relationship with our students. This does not mean frequency, but rather the quality. So how frequently you are communicating with your students is not important, but the quality of communication is very vital. When talking about factors that would influence student learning, we mentioned that teacher is one of the major socializing agents in the institute. The interaction with the students have direct impact on students' learning outcome. So, you can communicate with the student. There can be different ways of communicating. You should know the students by their name. You should offer regular office hours to meet the students. A lot of things can go, a lot of work can be done. Now, there is interaction with the students, the teacher's interaction with the students have a direct impact on the students' learning. Positive contact in and out of the classes make the student feel that interest of the teachers is there. So the teachers have to, put into perspective that they have the students' welfare in mind. This enhances the student's sense of belongingness. The student should not feel left out. He should feel a part of the student community. He should feel he belongs there. It is likely to boost the student's motivation for study and intellectual commitment. There are many ways to maintain quality contact with the students. The simplest one is knowing the student by name or visiting regularly. This helps students feel personally connected. Even in a virtual environment, this is desirable. You can send emails, discussion, forums, chat rooms. So there's so many things where you can communicate with the students during this COVID area. They should not be left feel left out or feel isolated or desolate. This could result in depression. They give students more time to think about what they want to say before communicating with you or making it public. So if you communicate with the student on a personal level, it will be easier for them to communicate on a public level as well. So this was the third principle, maintaining good contacts with the students. The next one is again very important. According to a meta-analysis by a famous scholar in this field, his name was John Hattie, found that giving prompt feedback is very important. Actually, it was the most powerful influence on academic achievement. Feedback should be positive. It is very important not only to give prompt, timely feedback, it is also important to give a user-friendly feedback. The formative feedback should be given, actionable feedback should be given, goal reference feedback should be given, and timely feedback should be given. All these things result in quality feedback. So the feedback should not only be prompt, it should be quality feedback. That is, it should be something that the student can do at their level. If you tell them something to do that is impossible, it will not work. So the feedback has to be prompt and quality feedback. The fifth principle is emphasize time on task. Now, research has shown that engagement shows that learning needs time. It is not possible to learn an activity or do something and achieve the required goal without investing time into it. So, time is very important. Not only does this suggest that the students need to spend necessary amount of time on learning, it also suggests that time spent on learning needs to be of good quality. So the quality is again very important. In order for it to be realistic and quality time, the teacher has to be realistic when giving the students the task. So please do not give the task to a student which is beyond him, which is too mean for him, or which is too beyond him, too difficult for him. So both ways, it's going to discourage him. Give enough time to the students. Allowing realistic amount of time for students to learn is important for effective learning. Overloading students and not giving them enough time will not lead to quality use of time. So you should not give them too much of work, neither give them too little of work. The work should be ideal, it should be balanced, there should be a golden mean. You must have heard this phrase by Plato, it's a golden mean. That is, it should not go beyond the average task. To ensure quality time on task, one can consider identifying key concepts and deciding what realistically can be covered in given amount of time when planning a lesson. So it's very important for you to plan the lessons appropriately. Give them enough time to digest the things. Do not information overload them. So information overload never works. Structure the learning activities and context so that the student can take on challenges step by step. Give students manageable workload. This is something that you should do. Give them things that they can manage, that they can perform. Now, the sixth one communicates high expectation. A researcher Gott once said, and I quote him, "If I accept you as you are, I will make you worse. However, if I treat you as though you are what you are capable of becoming, I help you become that." So we should not take them as they are. We should inspire them. We should motivate the students. We should give them higher ideals so that they can pursue them. Educational research shows that when teachers expected the students to perform at high levels, students tended to make decisions about learning based on those expectations and really performed at high levels. So we should give them higher expectations. Okay, so this is also according to Browning's philosophy. So give the students a detailed syllabus, give them proper assignments, give them due dates, and grade them properly and give them a good and prompt feedback. Few challenges in learning where they need new skills or approaches to learning, the teacher should guide them into the new ways of learning and allow time and opportunity for them to develop the needed skills. So the skills cannot be developed overnight. It's not like a switch that turns on and off. So you have to give them time specifically for learning new skills and new knowledge. To achieve this, a teacher will establish a safe learning environment and encourage students to speak up when they do not understand. So there must be doubts in the mind of the students. There might be some inhibitions or reluctance on the part. So we must give them enough safe environment. Nobody should be laughing at them. Nobody should be making fun of them in the class. So we should maintain sort of a discipline, and this discipline will result in a safe environment, learning environment for the students. We should encourage students from different backgrounds to share their views in the class. So that there is, interdisciplinary sort of a perspective which builds up. We should provide materials or activities to support the students to develop essential background knowledge or skills if they need. So everything should be provided to the students in terms of materials, activities, and any aids, teaching aids which are there. 7 principles have been found to be effective in research and practice. Now, it might be very hard to squeeze extra area in our busy schedule of teaching, research, and community to try them out, but it is worthwhile just to pick up one and to work on that. It is not possible to go for all of them at a stretch, but you can just pick one of these things, one of these principles, and you can work really hard on implementing it in your classroom and making your teaching more effective. I think we have come to the end of the lecture. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening to me. Hello. Yeah.
Can you
If there
provide
are
the
any
reference of
questions, I'm going
these
to
7 principles?
It
Reference.
was given by.
Yeah.
I'm going to be sharing them with you. It is given by just 1 minute. The 7 principles. It is given by Trigger and Process. Trigwell and Process. I think there are some questions in the chat box. Okay. If there are any questions, you are most welcome to ask. The content was appropriate and that found it interesting. I have tried to focus on the models of learning, the 2 models of learning. The first one lays down the 3 P's, that is the pre-stage, the process, and the product. And the second one, which builds upon it and puts down the importance of students' perception in learning. And the third point in the lecture was the 7 principles of effective teaching, which Chittagong and Ramson. I'm sorry. Chickering, Chickering, and Ramson, Gamson. Yes, any questions from the participants?
Yes, ma'am. Under psychomotor, how the stage of naturalizations can judge that my students has touched the stage of naturalization.
Naturalization is being, without even thinking about it, you can do something. Imagine you are driving, you are not thinking about what, if you want to stop and you want to apply the brake, you are not thinking about it. Nobody is telling you, nobody is, asking you to do that. You're not remembering it. It has become a part of you. So when that becomes a part of us, it's become natural for us. I think the example of driving is quite interesting because whenever you might be applying the brake, you find an animal crossing the road, a stray animal maybe, and you want to apply the brake, you're not thinking. Nobody is telling you. You're not relying on knowledge that, okay, somebody, this much time it takes to, you do it approximately in an instant. So that is naturalization. So a teacher can think about naturalization when the student does not have any need for any instructions or suggestions and does it very naturally.
Fully satisfied with the contents on the subject. Am I right? Where the students feel satisfied with the contents, with the delivery on the subject. Yeah. And it relates to the outcome, learning outcome. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they have acquired.
Yes.
So I'm very happy to see
any questions? I'm getting you.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Once you can unmute yourself.
you wanted to.
If anybody wants to ask any question, you can unmute yourself.
Yes. Putting a suggestion to the in case they have got some doubts or query on the subjects. You have well covered,
So this is the feedback.
particularly the various
This is the
principles of learning which are of very common use in their day-to-day teaching. That is very good. But you stay with us for some more time because Sankara Institute of Technology, they want to honor you by way of this letter of appreciations and memento. Meantime, we can wait for some participations. Yeah. If some questions is there.
Yes.
You put the title teaching skill for tech. I think these skills are yes. Yeah, now your motto has come
for
in.
Everybody. Thank you. Sir. Thank
Yeah,
you
this is for everybody. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Especially for technical teachers. I think the examples that I gave were pertinent to technical subjects, so maybe that's why I chose this topic.
These are the skills which are should be one part of every teacher who take the sessions.
Exactly, sir. Exactly, sir.
Yes. So this is this is a memento from this certificate of appreciations, certificate
Thank
of
you for having me.
remembrance, so that we remember each other. Yes. Madam, you have very well covered.
Nice
Wonderful delivery. Yes, communications was all right. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Sir. Thank you very much. And I'm also very thankful to the participants for lending an ear to me and listening to the lecture. I hope that you found something new, something fresh here, and it was useful for you. Thank you.
And to the participant, tomorrow again we will be meeting at the same time at 10 o'clock. Our first session will start. Our second session will be at 12:30. And thereafter, validity sessions. After this second session, immediately it will follow. Validity session will follow after the second session. So my suggestion, my request to all of you, be present in the validity sessions also. Our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, will be there. So thank you all for today's sessions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Yes.